89 episodes in, and we're still breaking new ground.
Welcome to the Crooked Table Podcast, where we discuss the world of film from a fresh angle. And now your host, Robert Yaniz Jr.
Welcome to the Crooked Table Podcast. This is Rob. On this episode, we're actually doing one of our first interviews. I know this is episode 89 of the Crooked Table Podcast, but for the most part, I haven't really ventured forth into interviews, but this was an opportunity that I really had to seize. I got a chance to speak with filmmaker Jeff Witzeman, whose new film, Flipping the Script when Parents Fight Back, deals with parents who are fighting the healthcare community to find alternative treatment for their cancer-ridden children, apparently in the United States. And this is something I didn't even realize until I watched the film and reviewed it. You can see my review on crookedtable.com. When kids are diagnosed with cancer, the protocol is to do between 2 to 4 years of chemotherapy, regardless of whether there's no signs of cancer up to that point or what the situation may be. And the parents in the film are going against the advice of the conventional medical community and trying to find a way to best take care of their kids. And I mentioned on the podcast before, Kai and I have a little girl, and it really hit me in a strong emotional way to see these parents fighting for their children's lives against everything, including the healthcare system that's supposed to be there to take care of them. So when I realized that I had the chance to talk with Jeff about this film, I jumped right on it. So what you're going to hear is an interview with me and filmmaker Jeff Witzeman about his film, Flipping the Script when Parents Fight Back, which is now available on Amazon Prime and Vimeo On Demand. Be sure to check out his film on those formats after you listen to this episode. So let's just go right into my interview with filmmaker Jeff Witzeman. Hey, Jeff, how are you doing?
Good.
So I guess just to kind of start things off, it's like, what is your background? Has filmmaking always been a passion of yours, or is it something that's developed, later in life, I guess?
Yeah, my father was a doctor. He was an anesthesiologist. And so that's where it kind of starts. And we were both into photography, and we used to develop our own photographs in the darkroom. We had a darkroom in our house. And so I've always been camera savvy, but initially when I got out of college, I got into an acting career. It went really well. And then it sort of waned, and I got into a music career and was in a band. And then I was doing a lot of writing. So I had almost had all the pieces of the puzzle together, without doing it. So when my wife got cancer and she went to Germany and was treated naturally and was, healed in 30 days with no pain, when the doctors here said they were going to have to remove her bladder, and she had a 50% chance of survival, when we got back, I wrote a story about that. The article went viral on medium.com, and actually some film directors came to me saying, hey, let's do this story. And then at the last minute, they backed out. So they said, Jeff, you do the story and we'll mentor you. And it sounded horrifying, and daunting, but sounded like, if I don't tell this story, no one's going to tell it. I've got to get on this. So it really came out of necessity. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I had really good mentors. One of them was a gal named Crystal Moselle, who did The Wolf Pack, and she's now come out with a new movie called Skate Kitchen. And there were 2 other documentary filmmaker directors that helped me, and it was just, you can't get any better than that. When you have a question, you can call them immediately on the phone, right, and they'll tell you what to do. It was like the best of all worlds.
Yeah. So I guess it was really, as you said, just more about, you identified an alternative treatment for your wife and then had this sort of miraculous recovery, and then just about getting that message out there, really, right?
Oh my gosh. I was horrified by the number of people in my community who were getting cancer and were treating it with what their doctors said they had to do. And these poor people were getting cut up. They were getting burned. They were getting radiated. And I would tell them, hey, Carrie had this done. Mm-hmm. in Germany, this option is available for you too. And they go, well, yeah, I asked my doctor about it and he said no. And I quickly realized I'm going to have a better argument than it worked for my wife and it can work for you. So man, I'm a big believer in film. I think, you know, if you want to convince somebody of something, you do it through film. So that's how it got started.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I refer to this quote a lot, but I know Roger Ebert famously referred to films as sort of empathy machines to really put you in someone's shoes, whether it's a documentary and it's, you know, based on real events, or it's, you know, a fictional story, and you know, having these visceral emotional reactions to a film. And yeah, I think flipping the script really kind of captured that from the perspective of the parents who are dealing with the situation. So I guess after Cancer Can Be Killed, you know, how did you arrive to you know, flipping the script as your next project? I mean, is this something that maybe came up in your research and you were like, well, that sounds like a totally different film right there?
I'll tell you, I got phone calls after that film Cancer Can Be Killed came out. I got a lot of phone calls from people wanting to heal their cancer. But what really shocked me was these parents saying, hey, my child's in remission from cancer, so there's no more cancer in their body, but doctors are forcing them into 2 to 3 years of chemotherapy, and they're starting to have organ failure. They're getting brain damage, and this is going on for 2 to 4 years, and they're in remission. And you know, at first I thought, well, that's illegal, right? You can't do that.
Should be.
I quickly found out that not only is it not illegal, there's no one in the country that will stop it. And so I just got on a plane, went to 2 of these families that called me, said, we've got to do something right away. Let's film you now, and we'll film you over the next 6 months as we try to find an answer to this problem. And we really had no idea what we were doing when we started out, and we had no idea if we could help anybody. And it was really just like following the breadcrumbs, you know, gradually finding one thing and then another until we finally figured out, oh my God, this is just a giant bluff, and we can call their bluff. And the reality is Child Protective Services has the power to force families and children to do something. But if the child is in no imminent danger and you prove to CPS that you're actually taking care of your child with a new health team, be it naturopathic, holistic, whatever it is, CPS goes fine. And the doctors start screaming and going, no, the child's going to die. Well, the children aren't dying. And now we have, you know, a case history of a lot of children that are getting well without doing long-term chemo. And so, you know, hopefully this is going to have a happy ending.
Yeah, and it's interesting too that, you know, making that first film, you sort of establish yourself as a kind of authority on this subject, because you have firsthand experience with it. So just the next film just kind of I guess flowed pretty organically. And I'm assuming those 2 families that reached out to you, those are the ones that bookend the film, correct?
They are.
Yeah,
they are the ones that start and end the film.
Yeah. So then, you know, you kind of give yourself, as you said, a 6-month window to get all that other footage and reach out to all those other, you know, all those other sources, the experts, and, you know, other families dealing with the same kind of thing. And you know, the film sort of, I guess, in a way, the structure kind of built itself.
It does. But even having said that, you really feel like you're in the dark.
Yeah.
I think, because you're filming. You don't know how it is all going to fit together. Don't know if it's going to resolve. And I think that's, you know, some of the fun of filmmaking really is not knowing, and then having it somehow at the end all make sense. So yeah, it was pretty thrilling, along with being terrifying.
So you know, these families reach out to you and you decide to, you know, you fly out and interview them. So what is the process of then getting in touch with all those other people and, like, you know, financing a project like this? Like, how does like just the practical side of it?
Yeah, what I like to do is sort of get the word out there, sort of like casting a net. And so I do that. Right now you can do it through Facebook pages. And so I put out an article on medium.com. Some people responded that way, and a lot of people responded on Facebook. they would just post, hey, this guy's doing this film about our plight. And, these Facebook family pages have like 200 families in them, all dealing with kids' cancer.
Oh, yeah.
They're looking for a way out. So I got contacted by numerous people, and I just called them all until I found the right people that were motivated. That was the trick. Who's motivated to do this? And so I just went out there, started getting them to talk. The hardest part of the puzzle, and this is going to sound strange, was finding doctors who would talk about what's going on. And that's where it's so difficult to do an objective film, because you want to have people on both sides so the viewer can make an educated decision, right? And, oh my God, I can clearly see that this is a better option than that option. The problem is these pediatric oncologists and doctors, they don't want to be interviewed. And everyone I talked to said, no, I will not talk on camera. And when I did my first film, Cancer Can Be Killed, I interviewed a researcher from City of Hope Medical Center, a researcher, and great testimony she gave that immunotherapy drugs harm the body along with trying to kill the cancer. And once that film was released, City of Hope called Amazon and said, take this film down immediately. It's an infringement of property rights, which it wasn't. I had a signed release. And there was nothing I could do except take that footage out of the film and then put the film back up without that interview with City of Hope. And that just showed me that, they want it all their way. They want to control everything. They want to control the discussion, and they don't want to be challenged. So I was lucky to get the doctors I did on this film to speak openly. Because, they're in a lot of fear of getting repercussions of saying things that they're not supposed to say.
Mm-hmm. Do you have investors for a project like this, or is this kind of...
So the the financial trick is, with my first film, I tried to get it made, and I wanted to have people join me in the funding. And I quickly learned that they wanted to change the story. And I didn't want to do that because I had just counseled hundreds of cancer patients and knew exactly what they needed. And I knew this was the answer. So I just funded it all myself. And then, the money comes in from the streaming revenue from Amazon, from DVD sales, and it's actually going to pay for itself in 2 to 3 years. So with that money, then I was able to fund this next movie, Flipping the Script. I'm now completely broke, right? But I have 2 films out there that are both bringing in income. So the third film is going to be a little tricky for funding, but I did get the first 2 done, and I'm so grateful that I was able to do it with my funding, because I was able to keep the story intact and not have to cater to someone else who wants it to be a different way.
So what were they trying to dilute the, your message basically about how cancer can be treated, or what was the,
so they
mind an alternative version?
They wanted less answers and less talking heads, and they wanted more cinema verite.
Okay.
They wanted me to follow these people in their pain and in their misery, and just sort of allow the viewer to get the sense of how difficult and painful it is for them to be, dealing with cancer. And first of all, the patient doesn't want that. Second of all, the doctors in the hospital are not going to sign off on that. So you're only going to get that cinema verite situation when you have the hospital funding the project and not the independent filmmaker. So I really didn't see that as possible. And at that point, when I realized what they said, the footage from Cancer Can Be Killed, get rid of it all. You need to start all over. And I was pretty sure that I had something. And when we edited it, it was clear that we did. So everybody just has a different opinion of what's going to sell. And when it comes down to it, the executive producer wants to make money on it. So that's why I couldn't negotiate with them. I just had to take it away and do it myself.
Right. So you did 6 months of intermittent, I guess, interviews and that kind of thing. Were you managing a day job of any kind during this time, or was it just pretty much focusing on this as much as, or was this more of a side focus?
Yeah, I had a day job for a couple months, and then I just stopped it. I had a window cleaning business, and I'd had it for about the last 25 years to go along with my creative pursuits. But I really realized if I want to do this film right and not be distracted, and I was horrified by what was happening to these kids and felt like I got to get this film out right away because this needs to be heard right now, and we need to find a solution right now. So 2 months into the filming, I quit my day job and just gave it up. And so I'm glad I did. It's so hard if you're really going to commit to a project to be working 20, 30 hours a week, which I was. It just,
right.
I couldn't do it. So
how did the focus of the film sort of change once you went in and tried to edit together all the footage you had, and did you discover anything along the way that you didn't maybe think about when you went in?
Yeah, we had no idea how to tell the story again. And I mean, we would look at the interviews and be amazed with what we were seeing and hearing, but we still didn't know how to tell the story. And I went back to my tried and true documentary film method, which is go on a quest. Mm-hmm. And just make it a quest and do it sequentially. Go ahead and do it in the exact time that you filmed it. And I felt like important to this film was I've got to raise the questions and then I've got to answer the questions, right. Almost like a legal trial, because we are on trial for what we're saying, which is that long-term chemo hurts more kids than it helps, and natural treatment is capable of restoring these children's health. And so it really was like, we're on trial here, so let's make it a legal argument almost. And so that was what we figured out in editing was A, let's make it a quest, and B, let's answer questions. Okay, so what are the questions? The questions are, what other options do these families have? And does natural treatment work for adults? And if it works for adults, why aren't we allowing it for kids? Right. And then finally, what do doctors have to say? What do lawyers have to say? And what do politicians have to say? And I felt like once we got all that, we would get a well-rounded view of the issue. And I'm hoping we did.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as you said, you're basically step-by-step building a case with the film. And I think that's part of what makes it work so well is that you're not just getting parents' perspectives of them dealing with, this horrific event with their children, but that you're kind of peeling back a little bit more on the political side of it, on what the healthcare community is, and everybody's perspective, and kind of the system that allows this to continue. I mean, I have a toddler of my own, so I mean, this was really hitting hard for me. And in a lot of ways, it's really the film kind of, in addition to exposing a lot of the corruption and stuff that's going on with the way that cancer is being treated, especially with children, I think it really is a kind of a testament to the love of these parents and like just how far they're willing to go to protect their kids, as is their right to do so, and to the point that they're literally fighting the system to keep their kids alive.
I mean, I can't imagine. I just remember when I had a toddler, I felt like I was working all the time. I was exhausted. Yeah. And now you want to throw on me having to fight the system. Mm-hmm. It just seems overwhelming. But these parents in the film were absolutely amazing. Just in their drive to get answers and to treat their children well, and their children are all thriving right now, and it's just amazing. Yeah, I'm super impressed with them.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I watched the film the next day, I told my wife, I'm like, okay, you need to watch this because her family, her mom is very she's an acupuncturist, so she's very like holistic medicine and always looking for alternative medicine and questioning like kind of what doctors have to say, not just taking everything at face value. So I said to her, I'm like, you need to watch this movie because it's really, you know, speaks a lot to, you know, kind of where we're coming from and the perspective of, you know, that, you know, just because the medical community says, well, this is a given, this is the next step, the protocol for treatment is X or Y or Z, and usually they don't even give you the three options, which is funny.
So true.
True. Just because that is what they do doesn't mean that's the best way or the only way to handle things. And I think your film did a terrific job of communicating that.
Thank you. Do you think we're in a little bit different time right now where people are more open to things like your wife's family and what they do to sort of work through stuff?
I think we're getting there. I think little by little, I think people are, I mean, you see around us now, you know, you even like in restaurants or things like that, they're like, oh, we need to offer healthier options, or, you know, here's, you know, everybody's trying to be more aware of nutrition and the role that plays. I think it still has a long way to go, and I think the fact that the system is perpetuating the opposite doesn't really help. You know, pushing, you know, drink your soda, your junk food and your sugar, and I mean and that's the funny thing. One of the interviews in your film is I can't remember anybody's name. You know exactly what I want to say. It's the mother who's like, oh, you know, no, all calories are good calories, and you know, and then the nurse is coming in with her soda and just kind of like that whole. It's even in the trailer actually. It was like, really? This is how you're approaching caring for my sick child instead of trying to, like, you know, detoxify them a little bit. And you know, the body is, and I think your film makes this point also, the body is really good at healing itself if you give it the tools and you create an environment where it can do so.
That's a good point. And I think we've come from a perspective of where you have to trick the body somehow. And we do that by giving it these drugs, and then it you know, it treats the symptoms and
right.
maybe will work. But I've even read on Facebook pages that, oh my God, you don't want to detoxify the child because that would get the chemo out of their bodies. You want to leave the chemo in their bodies and let it do its destruction so that the cancer doesn't come back. But yes, there's a lot of mythology in medicine. And what's interesting is I'm actually getting feedback now from doctors that are saying, hey, this has to stop, people. As doctors, we're not even allowed to practice the way we want to. We've got to change some things. And that's the exciting change that I'm seeing, is that, wow, doctors are actually willing, you know, to step out on a limb and say, hey, we've got to change that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's where a lot of the change has to really occur, is on the physician side of things, and they're the ones that can really, you know, push the advancement of holistic medicine and nutrition, and just, you know, just a different way of looking at healthcare instead of just, you know, chemotherapy and pharmaceuticals and all that stuff, which it never really made sense to me that we're going to cure your cancer, your body's destroying itself, by almost destroying the body. It doesn't, you know, do you think that chemotherapy has a role for cancer patients at all? Or do you think like it should just be avoided whole cloth?
You know, in the case of emergency situations, so let's say a child isn't breathing,
right,
or let's say an organ is blocked, you know, in those cases, chemotherapy maybe for a week to 30 days maybe is useful. But there are so many cases where IV nutrition would reverse these kids' cancer pretty quickly. And so, yeah, unfortunately, we got to keep chemo in there as an emergency situation. But that's it, just for emergency situations. Otherwise, we really don't need it, because we've got a lot of test results from all around the world of natural things that work. So it's going to be interesting to watch over the next 10 to 20 years. Things are going to change.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the fact that these kids are subjected to years of chemotherapy is just like, oh my God, it's mind-boggling.
Mind-boggling, mind-boggling. And these protocols for these kids, a lot of them they came up with in the 50s and 60s, and they haven't changed them, and they haven't done new tests to find out if they still are legitimate. And then when you find out you make $1.5 million per child, it's like, oh, that's why. And the pediatric oncologists make $2 to $3 million a year. Okay, that's a lot of hush money.
Yeah, exactly.
That cover a lot of skepticism if you can just pay everybody off, and then don't allow any testing for anything else, and you can pull off the sham for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, and to my earlier point about how I think things are starting to change. I mean, I'm seeing now CBD oil and cannabis oil like that. It's starting to go mainstream. Like they have it everywhere. Like, do you see a lot of shops that it's available? I've seen kiosks in the mall, like down a few minutes from my house. So it's people are starting to realize, oh wait, you can take care of the body naturally without having to resort to chemicals and radiation and things like that. So I think there's a long road ahead, obviously, but I think people are starting to wake up to that.
And talk about the gateway drug to health, CBD. Now Coca-Cola is actively trying to purchase a large cannabis manufacturer so they can make a new product with a new soda with CBD infusion in it. And it's like, wow, it's really going mainstream here. So this is great. And I do feel like with cannabis getting stronger, it's going to provide more health options for more people.
Yeah, it is starting. So people are starting to break down the sort of the stigma that CBD oil, cannabis oil, doesn't have THC in it. It's not even the effects of the drug. It's just yeah, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, exactly. And so people are starting to get that, and it's starting to become more commonly used. So I think that's great. So as far as you mentioned it might be tricky to pull off a third film. Do you have ideas for one? I mean, maybe in your research for this one, did you come up with take notes off to the side and be like, well, that could be another avenue to explore? And if so, do you want to continue with future projects in this vein and just keep an extension of your original point that cancer can be killed?
Yeah, I think maybe the next wave is there's one of the doctors from the film, Dagmar Abini, has a practice called Zuz's Way Integrative Practice in Wisconsin. She's booked up through December now as a result of the film coming out. The film's only been out 2 weeks, and she got booked up 2 months in advance because Dagmar Abini is one of the few people in the country that knows how to repair children's guts after getting so much chemotherapy. And that's the problem. The doctors, when they let them go after 2 to 4 years of chemo, they don't do anything about the destruction in these children's bodies. And so Dagmar knows how to repair the gut, and she knows what supplements are needed to repair the stomach. It can take 6 months to a year to do, but she knows how to do it, what testing to do for these children. And I think the next film is going to be a short film just with how she repairs these children's bodies. And then after that, the next film I want to do is doctors that want to change the system.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I think that would be exciting to find doctors that are saying, hey, here's what they're telling us we have to do, and here's what I'm doing, and I don't care what they say. That would be interesting to me because I feel like those guys there's guys like that out there, and they're cutting edge, and I just have to persuade them that they're not going to get killed if they testify.
Right.
So I think that would be fascinating. So that's kind of my interest.
Yeah, getting doctors to speak on record, on camera about that would be that would be more of an endeavor, I imagine. Just from a research perspective of getting everything together, just all the footage you would need.
Yeah, yeah. But there's some people out there that are really doing some cutting edge stuff, and so we already know who they are, and now it's just a matter of coordinating. All right, what's the story? What are we trying to tell? But yeah, we'll see where this leads. I mean, I feel like the next 6 months are really just going on the film festival circuit and flying around and meeting people. And as I meet people and as we share stories, I think that's another way that something's going to develop.
Yeah, I think so too. So realistically, like who do you think how do you think that the conversation can change? Like from a medical perspective, is it really going to take doctors just speaking out, or like what do you think? What do you hope that your films achieve as far as making a difference with from the perspective of the medical community, because they're really the ones that need to sort of adjust with the times in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so I think what we've learned really is that they're not going to change. But what we have found, is that awareness, it starts with awareness. So you got to raise awareness everywhere in the country. And then the next thing you have to have are people that are doing things differently, which we have. There's not too many right now, but it's like functional medicine doctors, holistic practitioners, integrative practitioners. So we've got these people that are treating people differently. Once people find out that patients are having success with these alternative practitioners, and that starts to get reported, then we can start making some headway into growing the awareness and people going, oh, hey, wow, there's a better way of doing things than this old way.
Right.
And then we can gradually start introducing laws in legislatures, and we can also do ballot measures. And they would, the ballot measures would be things like granting children permission to do alternative practices, and insurance has to pay for it. Because right now, insurance doesn't pay for anything but the toxic stuff. Mm-hmm. If we can get insurance to start paying for the non-toxic stuff, and we can build up, a history of case studies that are really doing well, then things have to change. So I look at the biggest changes over the last 20 years, and they've been the legalization of cannabis, and they've been the legalization really of gay marriage. And those happened through a coalition of a lot of different people coming together and saying, hey, we've got to fix this right now. And so that's what we're doing right now. We're building a coalition of a lot of different people, the cannabis people, the alternative medical people, the parents' rights people. And we start, moving forward inch by inch, saying, hey, this is what we need. This is what we believe. And I think it's going to happen, but it's going to take time, starts with awareness, and then eventually, hopefully, comes into some laws on the books.
Right. Well, we're seeing a lot of political movements and everything right now. So, I mean, that's another thing that I think sort of gives me hope that if you can create a groundswell for this issue, that there will be people and they will run with it and create hashtags off of it and get everybody talking about, about this issue and hopefully making a difference. So the film is available now on Amazon Prime Video and Vimeo as well. Is that correct?
Vimeo on demand for those people that are out of the country and want to see it worldwide.
So what's your plan with the film now? Are you applying to film festivals? Or is it scheduled to play any of them?
Yeah, it's we sent it out we submitted to about 25 or 30 film festivals. They all occur between January and September of 2019. And a number of film festivals, we were already accepted with Cancer Can Be Killed, and they've said, hey, we'd love to have you back. So we're pretty sure we're going to be in there. So, January through September of 2019, we hope to be all around the country in theaters everywhere. That's
terrific. Well, for people listening, is there anywhere that people can find you online or to follow up on, the adventure with this film and more of what you have going on in the future?
Yes, they can go to flippingthescript.com, and on that website we have lots of stories, treatment options, ways to handle the government when they're telling you have to do something. And then for people just looking for general information on cancer, we have cancercanbekilled.com. So flippingthescript.com and cancercanbekilled.com.
Yeah, in my research for this interview, I did see that you're very active on cancercanbekilled.com, posting a lot of articles and keeping everybody up to date on your findings and stuff. So that's terrific. Well, congratulations on the film, Jeff. Best of luck on the film festival circuit. And are you anywhere on social media, or Facebook or Twitter or anything like that?
Yeah, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and it's all at Jeff Witzeman or Jeff Witzeman. And there's a Facebook page also for Cancer Can Be Killed and Flipping the Script.
Excellent. I'll definitely pass that along to listeners. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I'll do what I can to get the word out about your film. I think, as I said, it's being a parent myself and someone who has lost people that I love to cancer. I think I want to do whatever I can to help support your cause. So
awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You have a terrific day. I appreciate your time.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So there you have it. That was my interview with Jeff Witzeman, director of Flipping the Script When Parents Fight Back. As we mentioned on the episode, you can find the film on Amazon Prime Video right now, as well as Vimeo on demand. You can also read my review of Flipping the Script on crookedtable.com. That's all we have this week. Actually, this was a episode is sort of interrupting my hiatus for when the show comes back in a couple months. But as I said, I had this opportunity to talk to Jeff about his film, and I had to go for it and tell you all about his film and the great work he's doing as an independent documentary filmmaker. So if you like this episode, please subscribe to the Crooked Table podcast on iTunes and Spotify. Consider contributing to our Patreon page at patreon.com/crookedtable. You can also rate and review the Crooked Table podcast on iTunes to help others find the show. You can find me, Robert Yaniz Jr., on Twitter at Crooked Table. Of course, find more podcast reviews, videos, and other movie-related goodies over at crookedtable.com. Until next time, I've been Rob. Roll credits.
This has been a production of crookedtable.com. All rights reserved.
The art of the low KED.